All right, that was pretty much it for floors and roofs. Next, we're going to go on to families. So in families, this is an example of a family. This is called a door family. Families are basically an element within Revit that is repeatable in your project. You can think of this as like a table would be a family that you could create and place around your project. A wall is not a family, a wall is an element. But things like windows and doors, those types of items, those would be considered families. I'm going to briefly touch on families. Families get very complicated, and I could probably spend an entire hour or 3 hour session, maybe an entire day even, talking about how floor families are made, or I'm not sorry, not floor families. Families in general are made. But basically all you need to know is that you select families and you place them into your model. And then you can also adjust the parameters of these families. So a couple different ways that we can operate families within Erdman. I'll pull up my Hive. It's called Hive CMS. All you have to do is go to your little Windows tab down here and type in Hive CMS. That's Hive Content Management System is what that stands for. And this is where we house all of our families. One of two locations on where we house our families. So once this loads, I'll be able to show you a little bit more about this. All right, so our families are located in two spots. Like I said, Hive CMS is one location, and both of these locations include the same families. This one's a little bit easier to search. This is why we have this set up, but there is somewhat of a legacy way to do things, which is in the Revit standards folder. I will show you how to get there in just a second. So the legacy way, which is more traditional, a lot of people prefer it. It's organized just the same way as this one is. The only difference is like I can type in the search bar what I'm looking for, whether it be a table or something like that. And in the Windows Explorer tab, I can't necessarily do that. So the first step, I want you to bookmark Revit standards. This is going to be a folder that you operate in all of the time. So that's L, navigate, this is this PC. It is in the L drive under Home Group, Virtual Design and Construction, and then right here is Revit Standards. This is where all of our Revit content is going to be. So to bookmark this, a couple different ways we could do it, but I'm going to show you the fast one. You select the folder and then just drag it over to this, which is Pin to Quick Access, and then you just let go. I already have this in here, so I won't be doing that. Another way you could do it is click on it, right click, Pin to Quick Access, and now it'll be visible inside of this. And you can also take this and actually rotate the order. I always put Revit Standards at the top because I use it that frequently. So within Revit Standards, we have a couple different folders that are important. Things like Family Library. I'll also be including Material Library inside of here that I have not put in this location yet. This is where our title blocks are and our template files. For this instance, we'll just talk about Family Library. So Family Library is where all of our families are housed. We have our annotations, architectural, electrical, fire protection, mechanical piping, all broad strokes on what disciplines are going to be using what. So in the architectural family, I'm going to be showing you how to work these simultaneously. So within the Hive CMS, we have libraries over here. And you'll notice that it is the same folder structure. I try to make them similar, so that way it's not an unfamiliar process whenever you go use one or the other. In the architectural tab, our Revit Standards folder breaks this out into separate, we'll call them tags. This is where you can start diving into whether you want door families, maybe you want columns or furniture. This is where you'll find all of that. In the furniture tab, we can even break down even further with children's furniture or workstations. I mean, the list goes on and on. So, let me show you what this, let's go try to find door family, a furniture family. That is tables. All right, so you can see that this is not a very helpful view. You don't really know what you're looking at. You can always go into this and start looking at these extra large items to try to get a feel for what's what. And that is really the biggest benefit with Hive. Once I know what I want, I can actually just type in furniture. And it's going to do its little search. Now they're all named the same, and it'll give it to you alphabetical. I have an entire video on how to use this Hive, how to use the search function. That is in the VDC training content website. So please take a look at that. But let's go find, let's just try to find dining table. All right, there's the dining table. This table right here is this table that we're seeing right there. This dining table is shown as square here and circle here. We can actually, that's a parameter that we can adjust. I'll show you how to do that. So to load in a family in Revit, a couple easy ways you could do it. I want to show you how to use both. Like I said, Hive CMS, a little bit easier. I can select this, right click it, and then hit open, and I'll actually open it inside of this project. Like I said, I have an entire video showing you how to use Hive, so if you want to use more Hive, please check that out. I'll no longer be doing the tutorial on Hive in this, so I'm going to actually close this out right now. So let's load in a component. I'll place a component here, and now it brings us into the place component section of this. Let's load a family. It brings up something on my other screen, asks you what family you want to load. So let's go find that in our family library, architecture, furniture, tables, dining table, open. Most of the time it will say that it's upgrading from a previous version. Don't worry about any of that. This one's actually not upgrading. So now it will bring up, it'll ask you, it'll tell you this is the component that we're placing. This is the level that we're placing it on, the elevation from level, or offset from level. You can give it a different width as well. All of these families will have different parameters and they will operate differently. So I could change this one to 10 feet. That is called an instance parameter. So if I were to have two of these, now I have two tables. Let's set them up pretty close to each other. I'll change this one. I want this one to be a 5-foot table. That on the left is called an instance parameter. I am only changing the instance of the family. This is one specific instance. If I were to change something that were overlapping both of them, that's called a type parameter. I'm changing a type property. So if I go in here in the edit type and I change, let's call it a material. If I change this material here in the type property, I don't know, let's call it, materials would be another section of the training, so just ignore this right now. Let's just make it plastic. When I change the plastic, or change the base finish to plastic, it'll change, because it was a type property, it'll change this dining room table to plastic everywhere else in the project. There are certain instances where it could be a material being a instance parameter. This is kind of where it gets complicated because it's different with every single family that we have, and you really can only tell about where or what you're changing based on where it is. So if you're changing it in here on the properties tab, instance parameter. If you're changing it in the type properties, type parameter. Think of type properties as overarching, changes all of those materials. If I have 40 tables in here in this model, it'll change all of those 40 tables. That's a type property. If I change an instance property, it'll only change that specific instance. So I hope that is a good rule of thumb that you'll keep in your mind as you're designing these things. And that is essentially everything to it. We could change the height of it as default. And I believe that is it for family properties. In this project, we're going to be covering doors, windows, and then certain components. So I have, I believe, 3 different doors inside of here. We can tell how many doors I have loaded in the project browser. If I go into families here and then find our doors, these are all of the doors that I have loaded in this project. So garage doors, this double door back here, this large slider in the back. Actually, I have 2 sliders in the back. Those are all door families. So I can actually come in here and change this. If I want to load a door family, it's not in the component section, it's actually in the door section. So under doors, we can do load family here, and then go find our doors. Oops. Under architecture, doors, these are all of our door families that we have in our family library right now. The family library changes all the time. If you need a door that we do not have right now, there's a VDC link. Go to this real quick. Under our VDC SharePoint, and actually I should have shown you how to get to that from the home page. And I always recommend bookmarking these home pages. You can see here I have under my Urban bookmark, Urban Home, my BIM management page, VDC. We have a ton of these pages. Some of them you're going to be using all the time, and some of them you're not going to be using so frequently. So under the Erdman All Employee, this is your home page most of the time. There's a tab called VDC, Virtual Design and Construction. We'll click on that. We do not have the family that you need. Just do a family request form. It'll take you to this form here that I've set up. You fill in the information, it gets sent over to our VDC team and BIM management team, which is all of these people here. And then it will tell you a bunch of questions. I don't know, what is it, 10 questions. Just do that, and we will have a model for you. All right, to load those in, it's simply just selecting one of these and hitting the open button. And then to place the doors are wall hosted. They need to be placed on a wall. You can't place them just like in the middle of a room. Obviously that wouldn't make sense, so place them on the wall. You just kind of hover over the wall, and you can also hit the space bar. That flips the swing angle here, or depending on what side of the wall you want it on, you do that. Windows are pretty close to the same operation. They're wall hosted as well. A couple different parameters you could put in there, but all of my windows are loaded in already. If you do not have windows loaded in, architecture tab, window, load family, go find that Windows folder. I believe it's right there. These are all the windows that we have in our projects, or in our family library right now. All right, and then last on this is components. I already kind of went over this. Families are not just associated with doors, windows, columns, or anything like that. Families are everything within the project that is not nailed to the ground, essentially, or not, we'll call it nailed to the ground. That's kind of how I think about it. That's everything like tables, your furniture, all of those things. Those are just loaded in as a component, place a component. We can also do a model in place. We'll call this one casework just for this instance. We'll model in some casework. We'll say modeling in a desk maybe. We'll do name it the desk. Brings up a completely different set of tabs. This is an extrusion. I'll create an extrusion. A lot of different things you can create within here that I will not be going into. This is more of a family creation training section. You can create extrusions, bends, revolves, sweeps, sweep bend, void forms. There are videos online on how to operate within those. I will also create one, and if you're really curious about how to create it, please let me know. I'll be happy to show you. So I'm just going to create a simple extrusion in the den. It's going to be a desk that sits right here. Draw this up. I can change the dimension of this, 6 feet, and a good depth dimension would be, let's call it 30 inches. I typed in 2'6", that was 2 space 6. You can also do 2'6" but that's just an extra step that you don't actually need. And you could also do 30 inches. Oops, I hit a period on that one. So that, a couple different ways you could do dimensions. Then I'll ask you where you want your extrusion to start. So my top level being 3 feet, start would be 210. That'd create a 2-inch depth. I can change the material from inside of here once I hit OK and finish the model. Now I have my desk inside of here and I can move it around. Now it's a model in place component. So that was a brief introduction to model in place components. All right, that was it for families. The next step we're going to go to is links. Links are very important, very crucial to projects. We're going to be coordinating between structural models, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, sometimes fire protection. Sometimes we're going to be linking in CAD files, sometimes we're going to be linking in PDFs and images. So let's get into that. For your assignment tonight,